as we talk about being more efficient in the go-to-market short motion and structure, and like you just referenced, right, sales, and thinking about the sales-led organization. This is not hot off the presses, but something that came out, I think, over the last week was the OpenViews annual report, benchmark report. And one of the interesting takeaways I saw from it, I think most of the data is kind of expected in some of the things we're talking about today. But one thing that stuck out to me was that CAC for all cohorts has actually increased over the last year and the last 2 years, right? Which was kind of counterintuitive in some senses, you would think initially, right? Of the idea of becoming more efficient go-to-market structures, more efficient teams. But the actual CAC has actually gone up across the board. And curious, I think I'm posing this to the group to have any thoughts or insights or experiences on what the drivers are behind that.
My theory is also there's been a lot of leadership changes in the last 1 to 2 years, like especially if you sell into the mid to enterprise, and then also looking at public companies. Like, I mean, yes, there's a lot of drama and flair with what happened with OpenAI. I'm not sure every company operates that way, but there are a lot of like C-level, VP level changes. And so if your previous buyer was bought into the solution that you were looking to sell, and all of a sudden that buyer went away, or even the champion for your solution went away, you have to start your whole sales process again. So I think there's also a byproduct of just like, everyone is focused internally on how they can make their businesses much more productive. And as a result of that, one, they're focusing on how to leverage their own resources better. But two, as a byproduct of that, the designs of the organizations are changing a lot.
Something that we've seen is what's come into focus for a lot of businesses is the time to value. So as businesses prioritizing the pains that they want to solve, reduced number of OKRs coming into focus, they're looking at the time to value of the propositions that they're purchasing. And if the time to value is too long, it immediately fell out of those businesses' pipelines because they deprioritized that pain. But they didn't notify a lot of the sales teams that they were no longer looking at it. They just ghosted them. And so all of a sudden, the average sales cycle length is almost going on indefinitely because they haven't heard back from these people to close things out. And that's just naturally pushing out that cost of acquisition because there's much less in the pipeline, longer sales cycle, and they're probably focusing on the wrong places to spend money to bring those back into focus. Often they'll still do a lot of bottom of funnel or top of funnel paid ads rather than how can we optimize time to value? And ultimately, how can we get those target accounts to start prioritizing our pain and get them to prioritizing that pain is really by having your message seen everywhere. So it feels like it starts to establish natural FOMO. But they're just a couple of things that we've seen as to why that CAC has just skyrocketed, because things are still in pipeline, but they're never going to close because businesses have changed their OKR, or buyers have changed their OKRs.
It's a great point. I think two things I take away from that is I've seen this in cases where essentially you have to sort of overhaul the entire sales pipeline again, right? Almost start from zero and assume you're starting from the bottom up again and reevaluate. Are you actually in a sales cycle, or are you not, right? And then it's like, are you actually in a relationship, or do you just think you're in a relationship, right? And then the second part of that is the way that we're selling now it's a different market. So sort of the messaging and positioning, as you mentioned, with the time to value has to be different now than it was 2 years ago, right? It's the same feature set, same offering, but how you position that and who you're engaging. And to the point that Cohen, you made as well, you're not selling necessarily to the same person anymore, the same profile of person, right? Because, anecdotally, I'm the head of finance interim for an organization. I'm involved in every purchase now, right? So you're selling not just to your persona buyer, but you're also selling to me, the head of finance in an organization, and you're possibly selling to the CEO as well, right? So you're really selling to 3 different personas.
And we've seen, like, even with public companies where, I'm not sure this is necessarily the norm, but there's definitely been enough of changes out there where the CFO is now becoming the CEO of the company. Can have our debate and discussion around that. But indeed, I think, every customer decision is going to go through the team of finance. And so the more as a business and as a leadership team, you understand how finance thinks, how you measure time to value, the better you are able to actually serve your customers, to tailor and target your messaging accordingly.